Hello, everybody. Stacy Nestor here with the Sage team. We are here for another round table with our awesome Sage practitioners. I am going to invite everybody to introduce themselves as we kind of get rolling with everything. I do see that there are people kind of trickling in on both Zoom and Facebook. So I am going to start with Brenda. Would you like to introduce yourself briefly, Brenda?
Hi, I'm Brenda, a recent graduate of Bose, and the holidays have been a wonderful blessing. So I'm hoping everyone here has had a wonderful holiday season and continues to stay safe and warm.
Love it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for joining us tonight, Brenda. Michelle.
Hi, everyone. I'm Michelle Millen, and I just have to say I'm so happy to see all your faces. I have missed you this holiday season, so it's really fun to be here tonight. I'm a Sage practitioner also, and I lean a lot into emotional empathy, intuition.
Thank you for being here, Michelle. Carissa.
Hello, glad to see y'all too. It's been a relaxing Christmas for me, so I hope for y'all too. I'm a Sage practitioner. I do connection sessions where I hold space for you to communicate directly with a loved one who's passed. That's different than a traditional medium where they relay the messages. I actually guide you to space where they're at, where you can see them, speak with them, feel them, experience them. And I'm happy to be here.
Thank you for joining us tonight, Chris. I'm excited that you're here. Leslie.
Hi, I'm happy to be here too and see you all. I am an animal communicator and an intuitive.
Awesome. And I guess I'll introduce myself. I'm Stacy Nestor. I am also a Sage practitioner. I am a psychic. I'm a psychic medium, and I do. I'm a Reiki master teacher. Yeah, I do a little bit of everything, but we are here tonight to answer questions that were sent in through either the Sage community, the Sage circle, or via email before tonight's session. So what I'm going to do and what we're here to do is just answer any of these general questions that come up for anybody that's just curious, what is different, or how do things change whenever you are that practitioner, whenever you finish that level 2 Sage method, or as a business owner that runs these things. Any of those questions, that's what we're here for. So the first one I'm going to start with is actually a really kind of fun question. So the question is, feeling energy sensations in the same part of the body, is that how information comes in? And I'm going to kick it off with you, Brenda.
My first yes is just yes. And it depends as to where. Sometimes people will work with a pendulum. You can work with the feelings on your body for a yes or a no. I get a lot of tingling on my scalp when it's yes. So yes, definitely. And
Michelle?
you go
sorry.
way into that.
Pretty similar to what Brenda was saying. I get a lot of feeling in my head. It's a tell for me. If you know me, if I start rubbing my head, it's because someone or something is messing with it at that time. So they just kind of let me know they're there by doing that. And then I get full body chills for like confirmations. If there's something they really want me to pay attention to, I will feel it throughout my whole body.
So now moving forward, anybody that watches you consistently is going to be watching for you to do this.
Yeah,
They're going to know. Carissa?
Absolutely. So I'm also an intuitive psychotherapist. And when I work with my clients, like I do somatic psychotherapy, and this is especially important if you feel resistant. Anyhow, research knows that the intuition, the unconscious, is connected to the body. So yes, you are connecting to your intuition when you're feeling sensations in your body. It's a doorway. That's awesome.
Love that. That's a great answer. What about you, Leslie? Any thoughts?
All of the above, and especially the chills.
the goosebumps, anything, the soul shivers, as I think the circle likes to refer to them as. I'm going to add on to this answer just a little bit too, and say that it's different for everybody. What those sensation means, where they're coming from, how they affect you, it's going to be different for each individual person. For example, if I have sensations coming from one side of my body versus the other, it tells me if it's a guide or a family member. If I get those soul shivers, those goosebumps, it's confirmation that I really do need to pay attention to what's coming through. And there are times as I'm prepping for, sitting down and doing a reading for somebody, that I'll experience things in my body that the person that is coming for a reading is experiencing, that I need to bring attention to. Great example of that is I was doing a reading on somebody that had really, really bad arthritis in their hands, and I could barely function with my hands that day. And the message was very strong that she needed to do something to take care of that, to like rest her hands a little bit more, and do those things like that. But the body sensations can be linked to one thing versus another, so it's worth exploring. It can be kind of fun, or not. I mean, experiencing arthritis that's not yours is not always the greatest way to start your day, but that's fine. That's a great question. Okay, this one was sent to me a little earlier and I loved this question. Is there a new spiritual practice that you are fascinated with? And I'm going to open this up to Leslie.
A new spiritual practice that I'm into, that I like.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything except for the timelines and time escaping you, or going the other way, time being longer than it is.
That's a good one. What about you, Carissa?
A new spiritual practice that's new to the world?
No, just new to you.
Oh, new to me.
Or the world. Either way.
I'm studying astrology, which is really cool. It's fun. I like it. It's crazy. Yeah, it is a blueprint. It's not set in stone, but you work with the energy, and how the Vedic astrology is so much more accurate than Western astrology, and that Western astrology is trying to catch up to it. It's super, super cool. I love it.
That's awesome. Michelle?
I am really fascinated with astral travel and lucid dreaming. And recently I've stepped into taking a course on controlled remote viewing, which is different than I've ever approached it before. And it's very fascinating, the whole conscious, subconscious going through the body. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with that.
That's awesome. Brenda?
Oh, for me, actually, it's picking up something that I put down quite a while back, and that's candle burning rituals for gratitude and for joy and for manifestation and things like that. It's just, I don't know, something calming about doing that in a rhythm.
I love that. I think for me, my answer is kind of it's a dual answer. I'm fascinated by energy work and very interested in how it affects everything. But Leslie, you said it, the time thing, glitches in the matrix, whatever you want to call them. I think the more the weird sort of things happen, the more fascinated I am by it, and the more I want to understand why it's happening. So that was, but I don't even know where to begin to research it, because I've had a few really weird things kind of occur, and I kind of step back going, wait a second, that's not normal. Logical brain does not compute this. That's a great question. Okay. Has opening up spiritually changed your primary relationship or other relationships in your life? I'm going to start this out with you, Michelle. I'm going to kind of switch things up a little bit here.
Oh, great. It definitely has changed my primary relationship. When I first started opening up, well, let me just go back real quick. I've always kind of had an interest in everything. So that was not new. My husband knew that when he married me. But as I started to open up and raise my vibration, there was a period of adjustment there in which he thought I was going to outgrow him in some way, shape, or form. And I never looked at it that way. And I said, no, I'm just, we're going to grow differently together and bring out different parts of each other. And since then, he's been really, really supportive. A funny story I can share is I was outside connecting with water. And when I'm outside, it's a great time to say my faith talk or talk to my guides. And my husband was watching me while I was doing this. And I came back inside. He's like, Michelle, I'm supportive of you. I know this is important to you. And I've seen enough to know that it's real. But when we have company over, could you not talk to yourself in the hot tub? And I said, I wasn't talking to myself, but yes, I can respect that and do it in my mind.
That's a tough one. That's a tough one. I totally get it. Both sides though. I don't often talk out loud for that reason.
I only do when I'm by myself. I didn't know he was watching me. So
That's great. Carissa, I'm throwing this one to you.
My primary relationship, my husband is open, but he has his own set of beliefs. And I thought that it was going to put a tear in our relationship, but it's actually made it stronger because I respect where he's at. He brings a lot to the table, whereas I bring a lot to the table. And it's really cool to have two different perspectives. I mean, my last husband, we were very much alike in a lot of things. And it was like, I need my own space and my own thing to do. So I love having some differences, even though it would be fun to have more similarities. Yeah. But in retrospect, it's good. Other relationships, absolutely. I have cut ties with people who are toxic and are just not. Who I was putting more energy into the relationship than they were. And you would think, oh, as a therapist, you should have had better boundaries. Well, no, I had a lot of empathy and compassion, a little bit too much. And so my spiritual journey, I was like, oh, I see how this is affecting my energy and my power. Absolutely not.
Awesome. Leslie?
So my primary relationship, as Michelle and Carissa have said, has been fine. It actually was I owned a pet sitting business for over 30 years before I started animal communication. And one of my customers had given me a nice amount of money for no reason. And I put it in the bank and I said to my husband one day, I want to do something special with that money. What should I do with it? And he said, well, why don't you study animal communication? You've wanted to do that. And so he's very supportive. He doesn't understand what I do, really. And, but that's okay. And with relatives, it's been, some don't understand and they don't want to understand. Others understand, but they, don't have the love behind it. And if you're not sincere and don't have the love behind it, I have a really hard time these days with that. And my boys, who are 27 and 30, they show an interest in it at times. And I love that because I've told them about my guides and they've been their ears perked up, and I told them the names and they said, we're going to test you in a couple years. And if you have different names, then we're going to know you have a problem.
Oh, that's so fun. Oh, Brenda, what about you?
Actually, it didn't really, nothing got worse. Everything actually got better. And of course, we talk about Davy a lot around the house. So he's actually moved in where everybody in the house talks to Davy. And he loves the attention. So that's not a problem, really. John and I always had two different views to begin with, but they kind of were the half of each other's. We kind of complete each other. So anytime I go off on this journey, he's like, okay, what are you learning this week? And I'll tell him. But I think the one thing that really, really tickled him pink was he lost his shears. He could not find his shears. And I said, I bet I can find them. Give me a minute. I was in the middle of doing the sage method. And I got real quiet. I concentrated. I wasn't really familiar with my guides at the time, but I knew what to listen for. And they led me right to his shears. So I gave him his shears and he goes, thank you. I said, don't thank me, thank my guides. So he started thanking my guides.
That's awesome. That's so good.
Yeah.
I would say honestly for me, it hasn't changed my relationship, my primary relationship. My husband for the longest time didn't really understand when I would say things. I think he realized that there's something behind it though, when we had a spirit that was chilling in our hallway for a little bit, and my dog would not go up and down the hallway by herself. She would just stop and stare and look. And I finally said, yeah, there's somebody in the hallway. I've got to take care of it tomorrow. And he was just kind of like, oh, okay. And then like, after it was cleared, a few weeks went by, and Astrid was doing the same thing again. And he looked at me, he goes, is there somebody in the hallway? And I was like, no, nobody's there. She's just being her. So like, he's actually asking those questions, which is cool. Outside of that relationship, the rest of my relationships, I have ended a lot. I've shifted a lot, because I just kind of choose to be who I am. And, you know, if I'm very open to answering questions, but I am all like, if it doesn't work or help raise my vibration or the other person's vibration, then standing in that kind of energy doesn't work. So I kind of, that's what I look at. I hope that makes sense. And I'm jumping right to the next question, and I have a really good one for this one. Can you share a memorable sign or synchronicity? I'm actually going to throw this one to Carissa first.
A memorable sign or synchronicity? Gosh, I've got a lot. You have a smile. Do you know of one that I've told you?
No, I read this question and I have a glitch in the matrix story that's like baffling my brain, but no.
Okay. I mean, like all kinds of stuff. I mean, for me, I had to get out of my way by saying, oh, okay, well, this is meant to be, so this is my path. When the reality is like, there's all these synchronicities and stuff that are helping you just stay on your path. It doesn't mean there's an end. For instance, I was told to apply for a PhD program and I was like, no way, unless I win the lotto. Didn't win the lotto. And all of a sudden I got associate supervisees to come under, and I have 6 now that paid the tuition to the T. And then now this December, I'm like, well, I want to press pause, you know? So it doesn't mean I may go back, but it doesn't mean, you know, just because those synchronicities happen, that doesn't mean I have to do. It was just a piece of, it's just a stone in the path, I guess.
Mhm.
That's the last one I can remember. Does that make sense? Or did
It does. No,
Yeah.
that makes sense. That makes sense to me. And I mean that it's a beautiful synchronicity when things line up like that and you're able to do things that you didn't think you were going to be able to do, right?
Yeah. And that they're like, nope, this is your next stone in your path. So here's the money.
Yep.
It's like, oh, okay.
Leslie, what about you?
Well, my mother died when I was 20, and one thing I remember very vividly about her is if we were walking down the street in a city in Philadelphia, I live near Philadelphia, she would stop in her path if she saw a penny. I mean, she was, you know, raising a family during the Depression, and she would stop for pennies. So whenever I see pennies, there's no question it's a sign from my mother. I'm getting a lot of number signs at, you know, all the time now. So that, no question, that's a sign.
I love those numbers. Michelle, what about you?
Yeah, there's so many, it's hard to narrow down one. So I guess the most recent one that really spoke to my heart. My aunt passed away in November. Her name was Pam. So Aunt Pam, the weekend after she passed away, I was talking to her daughter on the telephone, and the movie Meet the Fockers was on in the background. And I swear, the only line I heard in that whole movie was Pamela Martha Focker. That's the only line. And I was like, of course, I'm going to hear the name Pam right now. And it stuck with me so much that even though it was so small, such a small something, I told so many people about it. Well, then when we went to the gravesite and she was going to be laid to rest, I was standing there and a man walked up to me and he's holding flowers and he asked me if this was Martha's funeral. I said, no, it's Pam's funeral. And so I really felt like the universe was helping me through that time. My aunt was there helping me through that time. And that name, Pamela Martha, had a lot more significance after that.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brenda?
The one that keeps coming in my mind repeatedly was when I joined the military. I mean, everything that could have gone wrong should have and didn't. I was 29. I had 3 children. I had no formal education beyond high school. I mean, there was just absolutely no reason for them to let me join. And once I got in, it was almost like all of my assignments fell into place. All of my duty stations fell into place. I mean, that was a period of time that it was like, wow, just about every time I turned around. And it was during that time that I had met John and I was doing the candle rituals. So I was manifesting back then before all of, the bow teachings. But I guess right now I'm in hindsight, it really was more profound than what I was aware of. I really believe that now, that I was actually following my path without realizing that's what I was supposed to be doing.
That's really cool. Isn't it neat when you look back and you can see all of the little things lining up perfectly? So the one I guess it's a sign. It's actually, for me, this is very recent that this happened, and it's kind of like a weird sort of glitch in the Matrix story that I still can't quite explain, but it's really, really fascinating. My husband and I can't remember when it was, like a month or so ago. We were getting in the Jeep to go somewhere, and I had grabbed a can of soda out of my fridge, and I hopped in the Jeep and I opened the soda and I put it in my middle console, and we left and we were driving, and I got about halfway to our destination and I was like, oh, I have a drink, and I was getting parched. So I reached down to pick it up and moved it over, and the drink was pouring all over my lap because it somehow ended up upside down in my cup holder. But the thing is when you're holding a can and you're opening it, I would have had to intentionally flip it over, and it would have had to pour over everything in order to be upside down in the cup holder. I have no idea how it happened whatsoever, but my cup holder was filled with soda, and it was a hot mess. And I have no idea. I have no idea how it happened, because even like sitting in the Jeep holding something just to flip, like, it would have made a mess. It shouldn't have happened. So that's been kind of one of the weird sort of like, well, I don't have any explanation for this whatsoever, so we're just going to kind of continue on. Little glitch thing.
Did you ask Simon?
I'm sorry?
Did you ask Simon?
I at the time, I think I was not, that was one of the first things that went wrong that night, and I was really not happy, because after things started going wrong after that, I was not in a space to ask Simon. But the more that these things happen, the more curious about it I become. And that's like the time pieces, time jumping, time lasting for a lot longer than it should, looking at the time and specifically noting the time, and then all of a sudden it's like way earlier. Things like that are happening more and more. So I'm kind of like he and I are going to have a conversation, but no, I have not sat down with him yet because I don't know. I don't know if I'm supposed to, honestly, but yeah, it's been interesting. For those that read tarot, how do you prefer to receive your decks? And I'm going to add the second question onto this that's tacked onto it is, have you ever had a deck that didn't mesh with your energy? Who wants to jump into this one first? Carissa, do you read tarot?
I have my own tarot cards, and honestly, I don't read for other people, and I just look at them. It's through intuition. I just turn a card because if I get lazy and I don't want to tap in, and then it's like, oh, okay, and then it starts coming in. I get lazy. Is that bad? I get lazy. It's true. But no, I've only had one deck. That's an interesting question.
All right, and I know Leslie, Michelle, and Brenda, you all read, so I'm gonna just let you guys pop. Who wants to answer next?
I have scads of decks. None of them spoke to me until I got the Light Seers tarot deck. No idea why, because I have gone back to the other decks and I've asked you, why don't you work? And they'll tell me we're not paired right now, or we're not meant to right now. I mean, if you actually listen to the decks, they'll tell you. And I didn't listen to them when I bought them, but now I'm learning to listen.
That's a great answer. Michelle, Leslie?
You're muted.
Yeah, you're muted, Michelle. I don't even know how that happened.
I muted it. I have dogs in the background, so I didn't want them to disrupt. My primary deck is also the Light Seers, but I have been given decks in the past. I've received 2 as gifts, which I thought was a very kind gift. I was very grateful. Yeah, I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, not that they're even watching, but I was very grateful that they thought of me and got me decks. But I'm very particular about the decks that I use. Something about the art has to speak to me. And I have a lot of different decks that have spoken to me, but I prefer to find them myself. I will say that of the 2 decks that I've received, another individual used, it was her deck, and she just handed it over to me, which was very kind, but the art didn't speak to me. And the second deck I got, somebody purchased at an antique shop or a pawn shop or something like that. And I can't go into antique shops on any day of the year. And when I received that gift, and I know it was from a very good place, I just could not stay settled in my house with that deck in there. So I had to find another home for it.
That's fair.
On that same note, I bought maybe 2 decks for myself, maybe 3 at the most, and I have a good 8-9 decks. So I've been gifted decks as well. And Michelle, you said it so nicely. Of course, you would say it that nicely, that, you know, it's very thoughtful, and it was very kind of the people who gave me decks as a gift. But I do prefer to pick out my own decks. I prefer to have a feeling that that deck is for me.
I love that. That's a great answer. So mine is going to be completely different than all of yours. I've been gifted decks and I've purchased decks, and I'll see decks that I think are pretty and I'll buy them. Right now in front of me, I have probably 6 or 7 decks just up here. And then I have a shelf behind me that has probably 10 or 15 more. I use different decks of tarot for different readings. So I will go through and pick them according to my guides and what they're telling me which deck to use for different readings. I have specific decks that are for specific types of readings. So if I'm gravitating towards one, I kind of know the topics of conversations. But with that also being said, I have purchased decks that have sat here, never been used, because I was supposed to gift them to someone else to use. So like they come through me, through my hands, to be used by somebody else. And it's only if they're drawn to it and they see them and they're like, oh, I really like these. And I'm like, oh, well, they've been waiting for you. But, you know, I'm also very particular about the decks that I use as well, because if they don't speak to me in a way that will be conducive in a reading, then I tend to avoid them. But yeah, I have many different decks, and my first deck was a gift from my mom when I was 13, and it was your traditional Rider Waite tarot, and that's when I started reading. Yeah. Okay, and the final question that I have is, what spiritual practice do you wish you'd stuck with since the beginning? Michelle, but you need to unmute yourself. I like the hand movement though.
I talk with my hands. What can I say? The one regret that I have, and I kick myself every day for it, is one that Bo taught us about, the No Doubt notebook. I wish I had kept up that practice, because it wouldn't have taken that long to write, these experiences down. And by now my book would be full. And instead it's all up here and I'm starting to forget it. And so I wish I had taken that practice and just continued it. Sorry, Bo. It's a great practice. I'm regretting it.
It is a great practice. I'm kind of in agreement with you, and I'm over here going, maybe I should bring a notebook with me everywhere to start keeping track of things. I'm gonna throw the torch to you, Brenda.
I was like, I'm rolling my eyes about that because, well, I have one, but I didn't write everything down. Finding John Shears definitely was in there. What was the question?
What spiritual practice do you wish you'd stuck with since the beginning?
It's the candle burning. That's why I'm trying to get back into it, because that speaks to me. And I never really thought of myself as a fire element person because I'm a Cancer, so I'm a water element sign. But I'm married to a Leo. So there's my fire.
I
So
love
I'm
that.
going to try that.
Carissa?
Probably meditation, but since COVID, I do pretty well, at least 10 minutes a day. Holidays, when my daughter's out of school, not so much. But I would like to do more, at least like to do 20 minutes, but we all know how busy life gets. 20 minutes, it doesn't sound like a lot, but it is a lot when you have to put in some moving your body, and then things just stack on.
Yep.
You don't want to get too stressed out by healthy things every day.
Isn't it amazing that 20 minutes can actually turn into an hour, because you've got to prep for it, and then you're sitting, and then you've got to kind of decompress after too. It's tough. Leslie, what about you?
Journaling.
I feel like saying all of the above.
Really?
Meditation is something that I stepped away with, and that was actually the first thing that popped in my head. But the No Doubt notebook and journaling are things that I know would be so beneficial that I also got away from. And it's a time thing, because I tended to very much so link them together. So if I'm meditating, then I want to journal as well, and I want to write down what's coming through as I'm meditating. And then it's like I said, that 20 minutes turns into an hour very easily, and it's tough. It's tough. What other thoughts do you guys have?
I was going to ask you if you're doing automatic writing while you're meditating, and if maybe there's something that the guides want you to put out.
So I have done some pretty amazing automatic writing when I'm sitting at my desk. If I because typing is easier for me than pen to paper. So I've had some pretty interesting conversations with Simon. And there were some answers and stuff that came up actually for Michelle and Bo that I sent out to them. And I was like, I don't know why you guys need to know this, but this is what Simon told me. So when I do automatic writing, it's quite amazing. It's about that. It's a timepiece. It's that finding that time to sit and intentionally step into it that it becomes challenging, for sure.
I do the automatic writing right after my meditation, and sometimes it'll be 3 minutes. but it comes so much quicker for me. And I've met new guides coming through, and the handwriting will change, and the way the speech will change, the way they communicate. Super cool.
Yeah, it is very cool.
And that's why I only do about 10 minutes meditation, because I got that and I got that, and I get my, before I
It
work.
kind of adds on.
Yep, it does.
Yeah.
You don't want to get too
interesting.
stressed by self-care.
I don't think I could have said that better myself.
My self-care's agenda stressing me out.
All of these things that I do to take care of myself, and then I've got to start my day at like 4 a.m. because I don't have no. Oh my goodness. Oh, that's very true.
I'd love to hear a little bit more about Brenda's candle manifestation. Like, what exactly does that involve? Is it watching the way the flame goes? Is it putting intention behind it?
Yes, yes, and yes. Actually, I got I think it was Buckland's candle burning ritual book a long time ago, and different colors mean different things, of course. So you'd get different colored candles for different incantations, is what you call them. And it is the intent. It's the candle represents you, or the problem you want to overcome, or the joy you want to express. I mean, it can go positive or negative. You just have to be careful. And it's a lot of fun because when John and I were first together, he asked me if I put a spell on him. I said no. Because that's not how it works, but it's your intention and what you manifest. Yes, I manifested our relationship. I didn't know he was going to be the relationship, but on him specifically, no.
You put the energy out there and the intent, and intent is power. Intent is, that's one of the things that Bo, I think, spends so much time teaching everyone, is that your intent is where the power is. And if you have good intent behind something, and it's for the greatest good of all, it's going to be a million times powerful than anything else.
Yes, intention is your magic. That is your manifestation. It is. If it's for the highest and best, there's nothing you can do, can't do, I should say.
No, I absolutely agree with you. I agree. Any other questions that you guys wanted to chat about at all? Expand on? Cool. I love it. Another great roundtable. I would like to just take a moment and thank each and every one of you for joining me here tonight. I know it was kind of a Stacy forgot what day it was thing. I can't deny that. Time has been so bizarre lately that I forgot like even what day of the week it is, let alone what's happening. But I am incredibly grateful to each one of you for joining me here tonight, and we'll be back on the last Wednesday of January. And I'm gonna make my plan is to see if I can gather more questions through the circle and through the community as the month goes, so that we have more questions to answer, because it's so great when we have them coming through. And to all of the Sage members in the community and the circle, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I am sending everyone out there so much love, and I'm so grateful for you all. So I hope you guys have a great night.
Yeah, happy 2023.
Happy 2023.
New Year.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.